Hello, welcome to New Filmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with Movie Maker magazine. My name is Danny DeLillo and we're here at the South Park Center and I'm here with Aubry Mintz with his movie, Nothing to Say. Let's take a look at a clip. Aubry, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And congratulations on your film.
Thank you.
Unlike the title of your film, I've got plenty to say. I've been dying to say that. No, thank you for being here. For those that haven't seen it, tell us a brief synopsis.
Sure. Nothing to Say is an 8-minute animated film that takes place in a zoo where a zookeeper and his animals all have to speak their animal sounds in order to roam free. And everything is good, great, and fine until the appearance of a turtle who does not speak. He has nothing to say. And really, it's the zookeeper and the animals formed together to attempt to get words out of this character until the whole society starts to break down. And it's an allegory for people that have been displaced and have a tremendous amount to say, but cannot say it considering their surroundings.
Why would you want to watch it? I was so moved. I really was.
Thank you.
As it progressed, as I said to you before, I fell in love with this little turtle and just the story behind it. When you were at the film festival last night, it was just fascinating to hear the background of this story, which is what inspired you. And it's amazing that this has been a 23-year journey for you. Back in 1996, for those that can't work it out. Where did the inspiration come for you in making this particular project?
Well, I mean, initially it was an assignment. I was actually a student at the time in college in Canada. And part of being a student in this program, you had to produce a full animated short by graduation. And there was a lot of pressure around that. This was a Sheridan College outside of Toronto. And it was the late 90s, so you know, the golden age of animation had happened, like Aladdin and Lion King and all the great stuff. And now the new wave of animation was here. Toy Story had just been released. Yeah. So there was the studios were showing up at the school to hire straight from the class. So there was a lot of pressure around coming up with an idea for a short. So I actually came up with several ideas, but none were really filling. And the one that stuck was about this turtle that was on a farm, and the farmer had to try and make him talk, and he wouldn't talk, and the animals were trying to, and they were torturing the poor guy. And it wasn't really sticking. So I actually went with another idea for my film in school, and it was based off a Shel Silverstein poem called Hungry Mungry, about this boy who eats everything, including like you know, all the food in his fridge, the fridge, the table, and his parents, and so on and so forth. And I had all these like tons of images in my head, and I started storyboarding it and animating it. And my teacher at the time said, you know, you should probably get permission. It's not your poem. And I said, yeah, it's a children's book author. He'll totally say yes. And you know, I wrote a letter anyway to Shel Silverstein, and I got a letter 2 weeks after from the lawyer that says you cannot touch this. Oh goodness. So I had to go back to my sketchbook, and it was ready to start a school, and I had to find an idea, and I found this turtle came back. And so I started working on it, and it evolved since then. But as I worked on it, you know, I started to realize the story was more than just a turtle, and it ended up a turtle in the zoo. And I realized the turtle that wouldn't speak and only spoke once confronted with this kind of control and dangerous society around him. I realized I was telling an analogy for what I had learned when I was a child. I grew up, I'm Jewish, I grew up in a Jewish neighborhood, but I went to high school as one of very few Jews. And, you know, I had a kid in high school do a Heil Hitler beside me in a history class. And I remember feeling separate than, you know, people in the school.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I realized, oh my gosh, people treat you differently because of, you know, where you're from, or you feel differently because of where you're from.
Yeah.
And I hadn't had that experience too much growing up in a Jewish community. So I realized this turtle that didn't talk and, you know, was oppressed was part of my experience growing up, but then also the larger Jewish experience, of course, and during the Holocaust, where people were separated from their families and, of course, persecuted. So it kind of that came out later, but after much digging.
Wow, and then, you know, something you also mentioned as well last night was that, you know, sadly it's things that we're still going through today, even, you know, 20 something years later. And still resonates today as well, you know. And it did have that Lion King-esque together. It was a beautiful how it evolves as, you know, everyone kind of comes together, which is almost like the only way we can move forward as humans, which was beautiful. The start of the animation was great. I love how you kind of sort of almost through the animation, forgive me because I'm not as talented as when it comes to animation, but it was just kind of almost you captured the sort of two worlds, the sort of turtle's world and then the world of which she was living. Obviously the whole period in which this took place was quite a few years, but the actual length of making the animation, how long did that take you?
Well, it happened in spurts and fits. You know, it was a student film, and then it wasn't finished. That was 1 year. And then I repitched it when I was at Industrial Light and Magic, working as an animator. And it was greenlit, and it was became a professional short film at ILM for about 3 months. And we had a crew, and we reboarded everything and redesigned everything. Then ILM laid off about 1,500 people. So then I had a choice to make: am I going to continue working on this film or continue in the industry? And I was really into making the film. So I went back to Canada and through government grants was able to set up with a few people in a small place, you know, without air conditioning, and work every day, on this film for about 1.5 years.
Wow. And
we had about 1.5 minutes finished. And then the voice came in, which was Danny Aiello, who is a great American Italian actor.
He's in.
He's in. He started working and gave us this magical voice, which kind of propelled the whole quality of the film. And now we had to up our game. And about 6 months later, I ran out of money. So. And several things were happening in my life where it was such a large story. You know, as you said, there's 3 styles of animation through it, which is kind of like 3 films in one, because you have to recreate everything from scratch. So it was so overwhelming. I was 25 at the time, and I just had to kind of put it away. And I went to live life and got a full-time job teaching, and it kind of put it away for about 12 years. But it was always in the back of my mind or my heart. It's like I had to get back to this film somehow. I just didn't know how. And then I got a great call about 4 years ago from Mark Jones from Seneca College, who runs this wonderful program with his students, the Summer Institute, where they help filmmakers, professional filmmakers, finish films. And he said, hey, there's an urban legend but an unfinished film you started in Canada with Danny Aiello, and can we help you finish it? And so the past 4 summers, I've been going to Canada, working with them, working with different crews, and we finished.
This is so wonderful, and I felt, when I felt the audience reaction last night of hearing your story, I felt like, you know, what's so great, this is obviously a very personal story that you put into this beautiful, made into this beautiful film, but what's so wonderful, I think everyone just kind of was inspired by you, because I'm sure there are many people out there that have put something to bed or maybe given up on something for a while, whether it be a song or a book they want to write or something. And I love that it may have been a long journey, but you finished it. And that's such a wondrous thing. And I really appreciate it. What was, going on that huge journey, what has the experience been like to have it in NewFilmmakers LA in front of an audience? Like, what is that experience like with all the things that you've been through with this film?
It was nice to sit back and watch it with people that have not seen it before, knew nothing about the backstory, how long it took me, what was involved, or even, you know, the analogy. Just for face value to seeing how people could react and respond to it.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. Like, you know, I was holding my breath the whole time.
Yeah.
And I was noticing all the mistakes that I still haven't touched yet. But, you know, when I hear the reactions after, and then the conversations with people after was actually my favorite part. Oh. You know, people could tell me how it touched them in different ways, or how they related to it, and you know, even questions about making films or making animation. Yeah. So
no, it's amazing. What have you, now that you've made this film? I mean, obviously you are a great educator. You teach a lot of people, which is wonderful. What maybe have you learned in your career thus far as a filmmaker that you could share with any filmmakers out there? What is kind of something that you hold to go by?
You know, I think, you know, I've written a book and some articles about how to find the theme in your film. In other words, how to know what it is you want to say when you make a film. And I've interviewed several filmmakers, you know, feature filmmakers, short filmmakers, about how do they know what it is that they're saying. Yeah. And the answer is very similar in that people don't usually know when they start, and it's kind of revealed to them. Yeah. And sometimes it's revealed to you well into production. Yeah. Like an example is on Finding Nemo, in Pixar's Finding Nemo. They were designing, they'd storyboarded most of it, art direction was happening, and it was like a year later, after like well into pre-production, that it kind of dawned on the director, oh my gosh, I know what this film's about. And then, you know, of course things had to change. Once you know what the film's about, then, you know, your main character might look differently. Yeah. Once his motivation is changing. So that's it. It's just, you know, trying to find out what you want and what you want to say as soon as possible, which is a hard task. And sometimes it just takes tons of journal writing and tons of research, and in animators' case, tons of drawing and designing and figuring it out. And part of it is, as a filmmaker, it's your instinct, and part of it is, you know, your planning and your thought into it. And hopefully at some point both of those collide and you say, aha, this is why I'm making those decisions. Now I can be safe making more decisions.
I love it. And it's so funny because I feel like your film came at just the right time it was supposed to. It's almost, it's funny when you're looking back into the 90s and all those Disney films that came out, and it was like one after the other, these iconic films that now we're watching the live action of The Lion King this year, you know, and how resonant that is with your film, of this sort of celebration of this camaraderie of animals, and how much we can kind of learn from them as well. But I think what is, you know, so beautiful is that the message that you kind of gave to the audience almost, that, you know, and how you felt about it hasn't really changed today, you know, and how important film is to kind of remind us to, you know, even from an animal perspective, be better humans together as well, which I love. So listen, thank you very much for being with us.
You're welcome.
It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and keep making more films, please. I can't wait 25 years for another film, so just keep making them. So thank you very much. Thank you, Aubry, everybody.